Flat Rat says, I'm about to start me a SpeedyB F405 stack QAVS 5-inch. Use Betaflight 4.4 and Blue Jay. Any gotchas I should look for? Flat Rat, I think that there's a known bug in Betaflight 4.4.2 where the motor remapping wizard doesn't work. So I've got 4.4.0 on some quads, and some people are staying back on 4.4.3 too. iFlight, for example, is still shipping their bind and flies with 4.3.2 because they think that 4.4.0 is got some issues. So, that's what I say about that. I would flash 4.4.0 because it has, if it's a digital build, I would definitely flash 4.4.0 because it has a, it has the high definition canvas, and that's very desirable. If it's analog, you might even think about going back to 4.3.2. Aaron Ross, thank you for a $5 super chat. Is it possible to have a single drone that is FPV and GPS guided automated missions? Sure. Yeah. You would have iNav would be a good choice, although Pixhawk or ArduPilot is an okay choice as well. My God, I don't have any footage to show you of this, but last week I got to fly a Pixhawk drone in acro mode. It was a 5-inch freestyle quad, and it had a Pixhawk flight controller on it, and it was awful. It was awful. It was so bad. Like, if you raise the throttle, as soon as you raise the throttle, the nose would just go zoom and dive. It was like almost like the controller was messed up, except it wasn't that. So if you jam the throttle hard, it would go, and even if you, and that's not so unusual. Like, there's oftentimes some throttle to pitch coupling, but if you raise the throttle like zoop, like that slow, the nose would go zoop like that. And I was like, this is terrible. And it was really hard to fly because, like, if you were going forward and you did a sharp turn, and as you come out of the sharp turn, you jam the throttle, you're already sort of nose down through the turn, and as you jam the throttle, it goes, Wah! It was so bad. The person who had built it was working on some customization to the firmware, and it was really intended to be flown more in assisted flight modes. And in assisted flight modes, it was really interesting. They had done some interesting customized stuff that isn't that important. But when we put it in acro mode, it was just an absolute, I wouldn't say it was completely unflyable. Like, if I was very careful to move the throttle slowly and not pitch too much, I could get it around, but it was like, how bad could it be? So bad. It was so bad. So where's iNav on the scale of ArduPilot and Betaflight? iNav is pretty decent for freestyle. Not as good as Betaflight, but absolutely usable. 100% usable. Yeah. Dino FPV, thanks for a $2 super chat. Why are there no Frsky SPI presets in Betaflight 4.4? Do you mean the RC Link presets? The reason for that is that, I think, this is my answer. This answer could be wrong. I'm going to give it anyway, because what the hell? It's my live stream. There's no one here to disagree with me except Blunty. And if he stays quiet, then I'm just going to assume I'm right. Or the chat. The chat could disagree with me. But I don't think there's any Betaflight devs in the chat, so here's my answer. The default settings, the default RC Link settings in Betaflight 4.4 are correct for legacy slow links, like Frsky D8, Frsky D16, Spectrum, FlySky, etc. You don't have RC Link presets for that because the defaults work fine. You only need custom RC Link presets for modern high-speed control links, where you want the latency and the filtering is important. So that's my answer as to why there are no Frsky presets in Betaflight 4.4. Is that answer wrong? We'll see. Mike Bergman said, Blunty. Mike Bergman says, to be fair, Blunty is the one person who will not let you get the last word if you're wrong.
I think you're correct.
Yeah. Brandon Bean says my answer is correct. Yes. I'm trying to think, Blunty, if there's ever been like a topic that not like an argument we got into, but just a technical question or something where you and I just disagreed and didn't. We were both sure the other one was wrong. And then I don't know how that was just, we probably just did some research and then one of us was wrong and we're like,
yeah, the only thing I can think of we never truly agree on is the modes. Like I fly mode 3, I think it's less important to fly mode 2. You think it's more important to fly mode 2. So it's kind of a, I think that's where we disagree.
That's fairly subjective though. Like, I mean, I think we just agree to disagree about that. And I respect your viewpoint, but I just don't agree with it.
Yeah, I would. There's no that's all I can think of.
Yeah, that's a good point though. That's a good one. You're right. Blunty flies mode 3. Can't all be perfect. License to Drive wants to know, any 3D stereo vision HD FPV cameras yet? No. And to be honest with you, 3D stereo analog systems did exist, but almost no one used them. Almost no one used them. And they were interesting. They were kind of, if you got to play with one, it was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then you didn't put it on your aircraft. One of the reasons that the 3D systems were not as useful as it seems like they would have been is that on the quadcopter, you couldn't get very much separation between the cameras. And so the stereo separation wasn't as good as it could be. But mostly it was just the cost and size and complexity. Dylan Meany wants to know, can an F4 flight controller handle D-Shot 600? Dylan, if you are running bidirectional D-Shot, the advice is that F4 flight controllers should use 4K PID loop, not 8K. And at that point, you may as well use D-Shot 300. There isn't really an advantage to using D-Shot 600, is at least the official party line. People are throwing out, going back to that question about the X8, people are throwing out numbers of about as much as 30% for the efficiency loss when you have coaxial motors. That is in line what I heard, and I don't repeat it because I don't really know if it's true. I don't know of a source on that, but that is also numbers that I've heard. So it's probably right. If we've all heard the same number, it's probably right.